I just know that if my brand, like say if the wild unknown and tarot was enough to satiate me fully as a person, I would have been satiated by it. But I was really excited and enthusiastic to create the thing, support it, build it. And then at some point, I need to keep learning. And so that's when I went back to school and studied Jungian psychology, got into archetypes, got into alchemy, and then that really brought me into like theater and performance and Shakespeare and shamanism. Like it sort of blew everything open, and just acknowledging like I'm here to learn, and I need to satiate that.
Kim Krans, thanks so much for joining me on the pod.
So happy to be here, Brian. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm really stoked to talk with you. Gosh, I'm trying to remember like the first time I saw the Wild Unknown Tarot, and I think it was at like an ayahuasca retreat. And you're sitting around having breakfast or dinner, and someone always pulls out a tarot deck. And somebody pulled out this deck, and normally I have a real aversion to the aesthetic of like the new age and the spiritual scene. I have a background in art and design, and man, the aesthetics of the scene are just kind of terrible all over.
I'm with you.
And so someone pulls out this deck and I'm like, oh, wow, what's this? And I was struck by like just kind of how cool it was. And I thought, well, the person who created this obviously has like a refined aesthetic that that resonates with me. And your work ever since, everything that you create has got this kind of great aesthetic that I totally vibe with as a Gen Xer. Yeah, and like you do so much. You've got the tarot decks. You make music. You do dream work. You've got a degree in depth psychology now. And you talk about yoga and shamanism, and I'm like, we got to be friends, because these are all the things that I'm into.
I'm so glad. I recently have been dipping my toe into stand-up comedy too, as a kind of culmination of all these things that I've learned that are so helpful, but also so serious. So it's been really helpful to like just lighten it all up and kind of make fun of all of it at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even that, back in 2014, I lived in LA because I was studying yoga with Srivatsa Ramaswamy, who is a student of Krishnamacharya and friend of Desikachar. So it was like me getting close to the source of my yoga gurus. So I moved down to LA to study with him at Loyola Marymount. And I boarded with this woman who was like so quintessentially LA, but like from another era. Like she had come up in the 60s and 70s, gone there to be an actress and singer, and was like totally glamorous. But now she was like in her 60s, but still had, would dress up every day and had the like most kind of eclectic little house I've ever seen, full of spiritual tchotchkes and everything. And we had just a great rapport. And I would come home from class and kind of unpack everything that had happened and some of my complaints about the kind of ultra spirituality of some of the people there, and I would have her like rolling on the floor laughing at a certain point, and she was like, you got to do like a spiritual stand-up comedy routine where you just kind of go after all of these tropes and all of the kind of the bullshit of the spiritual scene. And I got as far as like writing a few jokes, but I realized like I don't know if it's for me, but I can definitely relate to the impulse to want to like make fun of things, especially in this world.
Yeah, it's such a good release of the built-up seriousness and attention to the practices. At some point, it's just like it kind of right-sizes everything. And I love that about comedy. And if you think about the trickster archetype, it's such a powerful archetype, and it has that ability to be really serious and dedicated about something and then flip it right on its head and laugh. And there's something really intriguing about that, something powerful about it. So yeah, I love that. I would, we could go back to your jokes and see if there's good material there. I lived on an ashram for 6 to 8 months, and so that became, I was basically writing like a sitcom of like ashram life, and it was just like too much. I was just back there a couple of weeks ago, and I'm just like shaking my head the whole time, like this is so unbelievable. At the same time, the healing and the true like rejuvenating spaciousness and kindness and simplicity there is just beyond what I have been able to find anywhere in the world. So it's both things at the same time.
I totally get it. Yeah, like there's a part of me that is like the real kind of devoted student, acolyte, like my gurus. I'm so grateful to them. I revere them, and I revere the practice, and I hold it with like such devotion and love and care. And then I've got this like trickster side that's just got to come along and like throw it all up in the air, turn it over, have a good laugh. And I think it keeps me balanced.
Yeah, I remember reading Desikachar and Krishnamacharya teachings when I was studying yoga, and the beautiful writings and beautiful teachers. Even Krishnamacharya's face, like, is a really beautiful face to look into and contemplate. I think they're very powerful teachers. So yeah, it's all things at once. I think that the modern spiritual person, practitioner, artist, we just have to be so able to hold so many complexities at once and not bail on the mission of the, search for a meaningful life where we can contribute. There's just too many contradictory facets of any organization, teachings, lineage, archetype. Everything has its own contradictions, so we just have to build our capacity to hold that while not losing the plot line.
Yeah. Just for people listening, I can hear your kitty Portia purring away on your lap. We can't see her, but she's there, so people might be picking up on that.
She's here. Portia and Mars, my two cats, have their own dream interpretation podcast. It's called Dolphins at Midnight. So we have live callers call in, and they do their own version of dreamwork. So yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, there's something about like the kind of ultra earnestness of the spiritual scene that my kind of like punk rock spirit just reacts strongly against. But yeah, at the same time, we've got to take our practice seriously. Like the yoga teacher who I apprenticed with, who studied with Desikachar for years, he had a lot of trickster in him. He was quite playful. And he would say, take your practice seriously, but not without humor.
That's
and I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, be sincere, but don't be so serious all the time, or don't take yourself too seriously.
Yeah. Yeah, I find that that's a really good aspect of any teacher, is like, do they laugh, and like, is there joy somewhere?
Yeah.
And I think when that's not there, I can get way too serious. I'm already inclined to go that way. So it's helpful for me to be around teachers that hold that in high regard. Yeah,
if a spiritual teacher can't tell a dirty joke, I'm just like, you're not for me, I think like the ability to laugh and to look at the dark side of life is a sign of like spiritual and mental health.
Yeah.
You just said a couple words that really stuck out to me, and it's kind of two words I've been putting together lately, but the spiritual artist, and kind of like looking at the kind of bricolage approach that I've taken to creating my own spiritual practice in life, like kind of collaging things together in my own way, I've done the dedicated path thing, followed this thing, and maybe thought it was for me, explored it, and then realized at some point, like, I couldn't give myself fully to like one lineage, one tradition. And it's taken me a long time to come to terms with this kind of the bricolage approach of putting different things together and letting them kind of form in some new way. And to actually like accept that that's just part of my spiritual path. And it's not like being a magpie, or, you know, it's not like a kind of spiritual potpourri or something like that, but it's actually quite meaningful, and it's really like meaningful to me because it's now like a personal spiritual practice. I wonder what you think about that, because I see you doing a lot of things and kind of drawing from different traditions like I've done. What are your thoughts about your own spiritual life? Do you have any conflict about the eclecticism of it?
It's such a good question, Brian, and it's like I could talk for 40 minutes on it and just also cry. And I feel very discouraged and encouraged simultaneously. There's a few anchor practices that I have that have been with me throughout my life as a spiritual practitioner. And then there's practices that started much earlier, before I knew a mantra, before I knew anything about breath practice or pranayama or any Sanskrit words. And so when I get sort of really caught up in my ideas about spirituality as being just the things I've learned in the last like 15, 20 years, I have to remember that like the divine force, that presence, that higher power was with me when I was a kiddo in my farm in Michigan, in a town of 300 people, like starving for creativity, diversity, expression, and communication. Like that force was there. I didn't have to do anything to earn it or get it. And Sanskrit language has been helpful for me in many, many ways, but that's not the only access point. So that always brings me back to like what were the very first things that got me, that helped me during that time. And the first one was just like a prayerfulness or a speaking and asking of whatever the force was, to hear me, to listen. And so I've always had a sort of prayer orientation. And then drawing became my anchor practice when I was 15. And I was drawing a couple of hours a day, and I had a teacher who, in hindsight, was very spiritual in her orientation. She talked a lot about Tibetan Buddhism and the Dalai Lama and the presence when you're drawing, and that the material reflects your state of mind. And, I was just a teenager, but those ideas went into me and sort of just, saturated over the years. So I think my core practice is drawing. And I don't mean to say that like my drawing is my meditation, because my drawing is meditative, but I still do my meditation practice, and I feel very sort of clear in those distinctions for me, that I want to sit down and close my eyes and do my meditation practice. However, I can also bring that presence or quality to drawing. And drawing actually organizes my mind and my hand and my system, because it's so ingrained in me for decades now. It organizes my mind for the day. And it satiates that part of me that wants to be like cray and like get in there with the tiny lines and get very detailed, so that I don't have to do that throughout the day with like my desire to control other people or like to be weird about certain things. I can kind of be like, okay, I let my freak flag fly in my practice, my creative practice. And then, if I do those things, then the rest of the day, I'm sort of like, okay, whatever happens it's okay,
Yeah, I love that. Like the act of drawing and the way in which you're drawing, it's satisfying that part of you that really needs to obsess over details and to kind of control things. And so you've got an outlet for it. You exercise that part of you. You don't deny it. You don't try to fix it. You don't medicate it. You've got an outlet for it to express itself. And then you're not like neurotic with, maybe most of the time, maybe some of the time, I don't know. But like it kind of helps to satisfy that urge. So you're not acting it out in ways that are inappropriate or harmful or, raise conflict.
Yeah, I think that quality in us to really get into the weeds is super useful in the creative practices. It's what you need to do at some point with any project, if it's a film script, if it's a poem, if it's whatever, to really get into the nitty gritty. And a lot of other areas of life need, spaciousness and patience, and that type of efforting doesn't really help a situation so much. I've found. So, yeah.
I love that you've gone back to your childhood and been able to see what your drawing practice was giving you then, and that the seeds of everything that have come later were already there. And I like that your drawing isn't overtly kind of spiritual. Like, drawing as a spiritual practice, you're not just doing like yantras or mandalas, but it's like you said, it's meditative. It's got that same quality about it, but it doesn't have to be literally quote unquote spiritual or something like that. Like I've kind of done the same thing, is like looking back at my early life and like, what was there? Where were the seeds? Like, where was my acorn starting to show itself? And I look at the way I approached music back then and the guitar, and practicing like 8 hours a day. Like, I was a devotee of the electric guitar, and my gurus were like Jimi Hendrix and Steve Vai and Frank Zappa and Prince. And they were up on my wall. I had like all of my gurus like plastered on my wall. And I would go in and close my door and retreat from the kind of chaos of my household and immerse myself in this thing that transported me. And so it gave me a direction, it gave me a practice, it gave me solace, it gave me a creative outlet for everything that was inside of me. And I go, like, the guitar was my yoga.
Yeah. Instruments are so powerful like that because they have all the qualities that the yoga practice has, whether it's like the drawing the senses in, pointing the senses towards one activity, sustaining that attention, is very, very powerful.
And it's embodied too.
Yeah.
Like you're saying about the drawing, like how it helps kind of you sort yourself out. I love the thing that Jung would say, that the hands can work out problems that confound the mind. And sometimes just sitting down, doing something with your hands, whether it's whittling or drawing or playing an instrument, somehow sorts out the psyche.
Yeah, this is such a mystery, the material, the power of the material, whether it's a guitar and starting to learn your preferences around, like, well, I like a classical guitar with the nylon strings, or I like this weight of guitar strings on my electric, and I like the neck of the guitar, all of those things, like, and I'm going to use red ink. Like, I've been using a bunch of red ink this summer, making these big sort of ink painting drawings. And it's like, I don't really know why, at this moment, but there's something about that quality of it, just the color, to like spend time studying this versus a black and white, black ink on white paper. It's a completely other world or a feeling tone that the drawings have. And I think I keep thinking about this quality of being satiated by things, and I feel that we're very unsatiated these days. Like, we're consuming all this stuff, we're engaging in all these ways, but like not getting that satiated feeling. And I think that materials do that, instruments do that, art making, memorizing a Shakespeare monologue. There's something about it where you get like an F yes, like after you've completed the thing. And there's no sort of quantifying it or qualifying it. It's just satisfying. When I finish a drawing, I'm like, wow, that's I feel the power of that act. And so I've just been trying to prioritize those things in my life and prioritize material, like the pages of the book, the way the thing feels, the harmonium, like the bellows of the harmonium, you know?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I've got a Shruti box, and it's like the walnut, the wood, there's like paper in the bellows, like the bellows is made out of folded paper, and the print on the paper I love. So it's
Yeah,
like even
yeah,
the inside of the Shruti box, when it shows itself, that's important to me too. Like the kind of whole aesthetic of the thing feeds something in my soul and gives
yeah,
me that feeling of satiation. And even the quality of the reeds and its air moving through, like the air moves through me and comes through my voice, like the Shruti box has its own voice. And so we can sing together. Like I'm never a solo chanter because my Shruti
yeah.
box is always there to accompany me and to breathe with me. I mean,
Yeah, I think these things, they seem so small and they're actually very powerful. The weight of the keys of the piano, the way a certain piano feels compared to another. I don't know. I always think like these are the kind of qualities that like really matter the end of a life, that you like sort of look back and think about what's most important, and like those are the type of details that I think are very significant in a life.
yeah, the little things. Even like I can think back to my early days and look for places where there were adults who encouraged my creative spirit. Because they were kind of hard to come by in the working class milieu that I grew up in. There was a kind of lot of coarseness. Um, but I remember like one teacher, Rick Corvino, who was this really special teacher I had in seventh and eighth grade. I went to like a kind of a special class. I got pulled out of the regular school and put in this class for like misfits, because they didn't know what to do with us. Like we were too smart for our own good or something. And he gave me like these little blessings, that I look back now and it was like a little word or a little note on my report card that I took in as a nourishment in a place where maybe I felt kind of impoverished of blessings, seeing people seeing me for who I am and appreciating that. And those little things, like you said, I'll be on my deathbed and I'll remember like Rick Corvino's mustache and him like saying, you're really creative. This is really great. Here's a Super 8 film camera. Why don't you try doing a stop motion animation?
Yeah.
But yeah, those little moments, little
Those
blessings, I
moments,
call them.
did you do the stop animation?
I did. I was talking to my nephew because he got into doing stop motion with his iPhone and like some app. And so I was
Yeah.
talking to him about how I did it with the Super 8 camera. And the little animation I did, it was like a little punk rocker coming down an alleyway. And I wanted him like to be all kind of drunk and fucked up and to throw up. And it was like such a challenge for me to figure out how to get him to throw up into a garbage can because, in stop motion, everything, like nothing can float in midair, right? And
I
so
love this.
I had to figure out like that the vomit was coming out of his mouth. And then at a certain point, I had to transfer the vomit to the can. And if I could do it in such a way that it looked seamless, like it actually like was flying through the air. And I figured that out. And that was like, such a peak experience for me that I like solved this problem of how to make this little punk rocker vomit into a garbage can.
I love just the phrase "stop animation vomit." Like that genre, that just is so good. Congratulations.
Yeah, I mean, I figured something out. It was really satisfying. I
Yeah.
wish I had that film now to look at it because I remember it being just so kind of like I remember it being as kind of impressive as like Nightmare Before Christmas, the stop motion in that. Like I figured this thing out. It's like, wow,
Yeah.
what an accomplishment.
Wow. Wow. Yeah.
Do you have any like early memories where you felt like the art, the drawing, like this is my thing?
I have a lot of memories of being very kind of stunned by how good it felt to draw and also what I was able to draw sort of innately. I mean, I practiced drawing a lot, but I was also like, whoa, this is kind of easy for me to do. And one of my earliest drawing memories is when I did a very sincere and quite large, for a kid, probably 18 by 24, portrait of Charles Barkley, the basketball player. And I was obsessed with basketball at that time and played a lot. And I played in varsity as a freshman. And it almost prevented me from going to art school. I left my sophomore year for art school, but I was so committed to the basketball team that I almost didn't take the opportunity to go to Interlochen Arts Academy, where I really learned to draw. And I did that drawing of his face, and there was something about it where I was like, it really looks like him. Like it captures his spirit. Like that looks like Charles Barkley. And it's always kind of shocking when that happens when you're, younger and you see, same with athletics where you're like, whoa, I made all of the free throws in the game tonight. Like you sort of see yourself from outside of yourself, and you have these moments of like, wow, there's something in me that's like has a knack for this. So yeah, I felt that, and I still think about Charles Barkley a lot. He's a favorite figure of mine. So yeah.
Yeah, the thing about drawing is like I never understood like why I was just kind of good at it. And like I could, I'd sit around and my classmates, I would draw like Garfield perfectly, it would look just like Jim Davis's version of Garfield, or, whatever kind of cartoon was, a Smurf or something like that. And I could just do it. And I don't know, I didn't have any classes or anything like that, but I look back and I go, I think it was like the ability to really look at something and to kind of start to transfer the image into my psyche and my body, and then the hand just moves and recreates it. And there's something about that stayed with me. Like I noticed at a certain point in my yoga teaching, I felt like I could enter a student's body and understand or feel how they're feeling. And so I could just give like a little verbal adjustment or suggestion, and it would like open up some kind of constriction or tension in them. And I felt like there's like this kind of shamanic siddhi happening. But I look at like the drawing or the music, and it's the same kind of thing. It's like the ability to look closely, to enter into, to absorb yourself into, and then it just transfers or something.
It does just transfer. I really relate to that. And not that many people like speak about this particular, I think of it as like a sort of creative phenomenon. Like once you learn that method of, it's like a high caliber observation or high sensory experience of observing and sort of documenting or tracking what is, you can apply it to any creative scenario. And I remember my first drawing teacher that I worked with for 3 years, she would have us look at Degas drawings or Mary Cassatt drawings, like old classic drawings, and she would, Rembrandt drawings even, and say, she would ask us, where was the artist in flow? Where were they having fun in this drawing? And then where were they nervous? And where did they get uptight? And she would say that the line actually holds the information about the psyche of the artist at that given moment. So sometimes in the hands would look really tight because people get worried, or the eyes. People will get like, oh, I don't know how to draw eyes. And the line gets very, very wrought with their own worry. And so that sensory,
Perception.
that perception that she trained me to have of like, where is their nervousness? I was able then to transfer that into like, in a poem, where is the line really contrived and overworked? And in a in a song lyric, or like you're suggesting these other formats, I feel like I have that knack to sense like there's too much here, or there's too little, or we need to ease up here, or put more effort in this area. And yeah, it's sort of a heightened sensory perception or ability.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that version of extrasensory perception. It's
Yeah.
like extra sensitive perception or something, you know,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
there's some
And
play there.
it does happen to me with, I don't teach physical asana that often, but when I have, and I can relate to what you're saying around sensing that sort of area in the body where there's that same kind of overworking or tension or unawareness. It's like easy for me to spot, I think, because I'm honed as visually to track that kind of thing. Yeah, this is the type of perception. I'm not exactly sure where people can learn this, but it's like I'm interested in like, opening the kind of school that actually trains this side of us to hone that skill, because I think it's really crucial. It sort of underlies all of my creative endeavors. That's why I don't really care if I'm working on an album or a comedy set or a drawing. It's kind of like it's all the same method, different materials.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I feel like a kinship with you because I'm also fairly eclectic. And there's been periods, especially over the past 10 or 15 years, where I've thought, God, stick to your lane or else you're never going to find success. If you keep kind of spreading yourself out, doing these different experiments for a while and then dropping it, and, some things stick, some things stay. But I'm always like, in this mode of like creative experimentation. And I've often thought that that's not like the best way to find success in this particular world. Like it's better to have a brand and have a message and stick to it. And so I've like struggled with that for myself. And I see someone like you who's found a lot of success. And I'm inspired by that to like stay eclectic, to just stay true to the creative spirit that wants me to try out different things, and knowing that some things will stick around, some things won't, and that's okay. It's all part of like some larger work.
Yeah, this is a very fascinating subject of like stay in your lane, stay focused, build the brand, do one thing well, stop dabbling, all these sort of things that we hear. Again, this is like a subject I could talk on for an hour and also have shed a good tear around, because it's been so challenging to hold myself in respectfully and confidently as I try different things that essentially like my soul really wants to try out, like the comedian in me and the performer in me. And I just know that if my brand, like say if the wild unknown and tarot was enough to satiate me fully as a person, I would have been satiated by it. But I was really excited and enthusiastic to create the thing, support it, build it. And then at some point I need to keep learning. And so that's when I went back to school and studied Jungian psychology, got into archetypes, got into alchemy, and then that really brought me into like theater and performance and Shakespeare and shamanism. Like it sort of blew everything open, and just acknowledging like I'm here to learn, and I need to satiate that, and the business folks might say otherwise, that I could be making X amount more if I had stayed focused just on the tarot, but I have to trust that that's doing its thing out in the world, and that I can move forward as an artist and continue to grow. And there was a woman at the final stand-up performance, one woman comedy show that I did in New York City, and she said to me after the show, I'm just so glad to see that you did that. So I know that I can do that. Like, we can do that if we want to. We can get on a stage and say what we want to say. And that was the most meaningful of all of the feedback that came from the 3 shows that I did in that series of performances, was just like, it's important to give people a sort of imprint or blueprint of like, it's okay to try this, and it's okay to experiment and take a risk. And I think the artists who have done that are very important to me. It's sort of shown me that, yeah, I'm not just satisfied by, Bob Dylan's a great example of just like, I'm going electric because I have to grow. And
I'm going to learn how to do wrought iron and make gates for my friends in Malibu. Or, I think he just had a painting exhibition recently. And I'm like, he's not a bad painter. He's eclectic too. That's why I think I'm drawn to this like designation of the spiritual artist, because it leaves it open, and then everything that kind of grabs me and draws me into it as like a kind of study for a while or practice, it's all part of the bigger work. And so it's kind of therefore inherently going to be eclectic, because there's some part of me that is never satiated. It always wants to keep learning, keep exploring, keep going deeper. And there's all these like different vehicles or avenues by which you can do that. And so I'm just like, one at a time kind of captures me, and I'm drawn into it, and I'm in it for a while. And it's like, I don't know, I'm like filled up by it, or I learn enough so that it then becomes incorporated into the magnum opus that is my life and my expression. So like I apprenticed to these things for a while, and then like I don't really chant in Sanskrit anymore, but there was a time where I was like, I went to Sanskrit class. I was like really into it. I was like all about the pronunciation and like learning what the words meant and everything and getting it just right. And then once I got to a certain point, it was like, I don't know. I got what I needed from it. And now it's like, coming out in these like English language chants that come through me. And so it's part of the whole thing.
It's interesting. Yeah, I mean, from the outside point of view, it just seems like, of course, it's like a beautiful weaving, but from the inside, it can feel, at least for me, like I'm all over the place. But that framework is so much mediated by social media. Like a lot of the artists that we know that have impact and are successful, or we might think of as, examples of a life we want to live, they were doing all kinds of things. It's just that they didn't have a feed that was, checking in on them day to day or week to week. But you find out like, Joseph Campbell is like a runner, like a long distance runner, not that many people know that.
I know. That nerd was a jock. What?
Yeah, exactly. And he used the running to like, integrate he was reading all the time. So it's like, I think culture sort of shaped us to think like people are one thing and that's why they're successful. But if you look at it, the people have these other hobbies and intricacies that they get really hooked into for a while. And I think it just feeds the beauty and like strangeness that of a person, we're all just like so phenomenally unique. And I love learning that, my friend musician is also like a nunchucks. Yeah, that's like his thing, he's like nunchucks, obsessed. Yeah.
Nunchaku.
Yeah. And it's like, well, of course, that makes zero sense and perfect sense at the same time, So, yeah, I think it's something that is to be celebrated, and it's not so much at this time, I think, because of the way social feeds are designed.
Yeah, and like the audience can be so kind of fickle. And when you start to kind of spread your wings or venture into other areas, if they know you or appreciate you for the one thing, like, oh, Brian James, he's got that podcast focuses on plant medicine and shamanism. What the hell is he doing talking about depth psychology now? I'm like,
Yeah,
going, look,
yeah.
this is just a reflection of the journey I'm on. And if you're with me for a time, beautiful. If you're with me for the long run, that's great too. But like, this is about my journey and my exploration, and then just sharing it. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's just like a shifting of attitude and not getting caught by like that external pressure to like pick a lane, define your brand, define yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and seeing ourselves more as artists. And yeah, all the artists that we know and love were eclectic and always exploring. I mean, look at the different eras of Picasso. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
you look at the difference between some of those eras and you go, this was done by the same guy? No way.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
wasn't the same guy, right?
It's true. It's true. Yeah.
And so no wonder that when you decided to go deeper into like Jung and archetypes, you didn't go to the Chicago Jung Institute. You went to Pacifica, which was founded
Yeah.
on teachings of one of my psychological heroes, James Hillman,
Same.
who
I'm with you. He's my man. I'm like young.
he's my
Okay,
dude.
it's cool, but Hillman. I was just reading, actually just reading Suicide in the Soul last night.
Nice light
I've
read.
had a nice light read.
Yeah.
I've had it for years, and I haven't really been able to. I haven't been able to get through it, but I've lost two friends, artists this year, and I've just been writing about it and in deep contemplation about this idea of being satiated, in life, and I think this is particularly interesting with addiction, and reflecting on my own addictive personality qualities, and I think there's something about the arts that offers such deep satiety that I really wish it was more integrated into our society, because when I see a lot of the friends I've lost and what they've been going through, I think often it's almost like we didn't give them enough juicy challenges, At some point, their challenges just get sober. And I don't think that's enough for the particular people that I've lost this year. That wasn't a high enough bar. I think they needed something to actually dig into, like a Hamlet monologue, memorize the lyrics to do, memorize a monologue for this, or perform, or, I don't want to be unrealistic about it, but
Yeah.
there's some link here for me.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. When I work with people who are dealing with some kind of addiction, whatever it is, my question isn't like, what is the pain that you're trying to soothe, which is a kind of a standard thing to ask now, especially post Gabor Mate. It's not stop the behavior, but it's like, what do you desire? Like, what desire are you trying to meet through this behavior? And I think like the depth approach to addiction, there's something right about the addiction. There's something this person is craving, but they're doing it in a kind of a confused way, or they've got like the levels confused, or they're acting out something literally that is more about something that the soul needs. I see that often with like sex addiction. It's an acting out, or polyamory. It's like, well, you want variety. You want to be attracted to all these different figures. It doesn't mean you have, like, the problem comes when you confuse the levels and you start acting things out on the literal material level often. So like, yeah, like, are you craving more depth? Are you craving transcendence? Then read Emerson, or go to a kirtan, or whatever it is, but try to find out what it is that you desire and how you're trying to meet that desire in just a confused and destructive way.
Yeah, exactly. I really hear what you're saying. around all of this. It's almost like there were no assignments that were complex enough to hold what I find to be like particularly beautiful, complex minds in the addicts that I know that I've lost, and incredible high caliber minds. So they're craving an experience in the world. And this is where I feel like art can be really powerful, because it's challenging. You know, it's hard to draw. If you sit down in a drawing class and you're given an assignment of even a still life, like if you get in there, it's hard.
God, especially a still life. Those are my worst classes at art school. God, just the perspective and the shading and oh my God.
No, it's a thing. I mean, you can go through the Metropolitan Museum and think, oh, there's a bunch of lemons and flowers on a table, but if you sit down and you try to paint a lemon, it's a thing.
Yeah.
You're like, wait, it curves this way and then the ends curve in that other way? Like,
yeah. And then it's dimpled on that surface and oh my God, it's too much.
And it's sitting on the table, but like, it doesn't look like it's sitting on the table when I draw. It looks like it's floating.
Yeah.
I mean, I love it. I think, you know, if I were to just bail on all of this, I would just go teach still life and figure drawing somewhere in a barn, you know?
Yeah, somewhere up in the Hudson Valley.
Yeah,
it's like
just
Kim's art barn.
My art barn. Just come on over, everyone.
I know. I kind of like have that fantasy too, like especially when feeling like some pressure to like take what I have already accomplished in terms of like this podcast and the, you know, the YouTube followers and all that stuff. And like I get emails like every day from people who want to help me like amplify my thing. It's like they're like, it's great what you're doing, but you could have so many more followers and all this kind of stuff like every freaking day. And they send me videos of their analysis of my YouTube page and what I could be doing better to hit the SEO and get on the algorithm. And I don't want any of that. You know, I like my like little quiet life. You know, this is already a stretch for me to like put my voice and my face out there in these intimate conversations I have with people. And I was thinking about this morning, like on my run, you know, I was listening to a podcast that you'd done with somebody and just like, wow, seeing like all of the similarity in terms of the eclecticism, but also the kind of the punk rock and roll vibe that I get from your stuff. And I'm like, you know what? I'm like happy to be an underground artist. I don't want fame because all of a sudden then I'm accountable to this mass of people called the audience. Mm-hmm. You know, and I want to be accountable to my daimon. I want to be accountable to my soul. I want to be accountable to my dog, my wife, you know, the kids that I mentor in the music program here. More than that, I don't got the capacity or the desire.
Yeah, this is such an undervalued conversation point, and I feel like I want to talk about it more with people and just like broadly. And the person I think of who's a mentor for me in this capacity is Michael Meade, who worked with, you know, Bly and Hillman on the men's movement, and he has stayed stealthily underground and deeply dedicated to his mission. And it's like, if you find him, he's there, and he's not out there sort of the projection or the amplification of what did he call it one time when we talked about it? I wish I could think of the phrase. It was something around the ego, the dance of the ego. That becomes the storyline rather than the actual content that he's producing. And I just find him to be one of the most deeply powerful and like true resonant mentors, you know, that's alive right now. So I'm trying to use his like bullshit meter. I think if I can use that, then I'm on the right track.
Yeah. And he ended up not in Santa Barbara or New York or like some kind of spiritual hotspot where he could probably be doing workshops every weekend. He's on a little island across the water from me called Vashon. It's like a little kind of hippie island. It's out there. It's not close to anything. But yeah, I've had him on the podcast a few times, and he's always struck me as somebody with like a deep integrity. And, you know, as a kind of punk rock, art school Gen Xer, man, I was thinking about this morning, okay, you know, like the Buddhist idea of like, I think it's like the four gateways, like before anything passes my lips, you know, before I say anything, it's got to pass these gates. Like, is it true? Is it kind? Is it beneficial or something like that, right?
Yeah.
I was thinking
I
like,
think maybe like right timed or something like that.
so, yeah, or is
One
it
of them?
something like
Something
that,
like
right?
that.
But I was thinking like I've got the Gen X version of that. It's like before anything comes into me, it's got to pass these like gateways. And I was thinking like what the gateways are. It's like, is it phony? Is it like trying too hard? You know,
Yeah.
is it too earnest? Is it kind of, is it sellout? Like, is it kind of bullshit? You know, is it marketing? Something like that. And Michael Mead passes all those gateways for me. And I appreciate that he's still out there just kind of doing the thing.
Yeah. Yeah, he's really been a significant, had a significant impact on me over the years. I think he called it like the cult of ego, or what is the phrase? It was really great. I'm just talking about decisions, whether to take certain opportunities or not.
Yeah, I mean, there is, you know, it's the cult of personality, and that's become just amplified in this social media era. But like even our guy, James Hillman, that's one of the things I appreciate about him is that he never wanted a school of archetypal psychology. He never wanted to have like a summit, you know. He just if he wanted people to get together, it was like friends talking about ideas as part of a festival. Like let's get together and celebrate ideas. And I dig that.
James Hillman is just such an influence for me, because he's one of those people, speaking of trickster, that's like absolutely dedicated to that craft or that discipline, and he's critical of it at the same time. Like, where are the gaps? Where are the holes? Where is this falling short? And he's so fierce in that. And at the same time, he's not just talking shit. He's completely dedicated and aware of the pitfalls. And I think that's just beautiful. Just adore him. Blue Fire is one of my favorite books, just a collection of his works, and his writing on alchemy is very impactful for me.
Yeah, and my buddy Tom Moore, I think, did such a great job of introducing all of those different excerpts in Blue Fire and kind of being a translator,
Yeah.
or facilitator of Hillman's sometimes difficult ideas.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I know you've got a hard out, and I've got a client to get to as well. Do we got to wrap it up right now?
I have like 5 minutes.
Okay. I mean, there's so much that we could talk about. I wonder, like, if we can pick this up down the road sometime, because I'd love
That
to
sounds
talk to you
great.
more about like being a spiritual artist, like the value of the underground, coming to terms with the pressures to be successful and define yourself. I mean, these are all such rich topics that.
They're really rich, and also I think going more deeply into this like punk underbelly, where like how is that helpful, and also can complicate things, and just sort of like what is the resonance of that archetype. We both have that, obviously, and I think about the value it's had in my life, over time. So it'd be interesting to get into some of those topics.
Cool. And I think it's already closed, but you've got a dream school that you're running, and I'm sure it's going to be a success, and I'm sure you're going to, well, maybe you won't run it again. Maybe it'll be a one-off thing. I don't know. You'll just move on to something else.
Well, no, we have an August module that filled up, but we're going to open one up for September. So hopefully that will be open when your listeners might be hearing the podcast. But yeah, I'm really excited to work with a Jungian framework, shamanic framework, but also really open up the dreams into the creative disciplines and make some art and learn how to share and
Nice. I'm
hold
always
dreams.
I'm always looking for a kind of a soul sangha, and it's hard to find people who are kind of aligned on different levels, the aesthetic, the ideas, and all of that. So I might try and join you for September and see what
Sounds
we can find.
fabulous. Sounds fabulous.
Okay, Kim.
I'm so glad to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for showing up, and hope to talk to you soon.
Okay, this can be part one.
Yeah, thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.